Hi, good evening, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment. I have 6:30 on my clock right now, so we'll go over a couple of things here and there, and just to give some folks some extra time. I think we're waiting on a few more people, but we'll just go ahead and get started with some basics for now. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Lee. I'm a meteorologist here at the National Weather Service office in Newport, Morehead City. I've been with this office for about over 2 years now at this point. But I've been a meteorologist for quite some time. But we'll start off with a couple of technical basics, just kind of getting some housekeeping things just to get comfortable with the program, the software that we have. With GoToMeeting, the way it works is that your mics have been muted right now. So you don't have to worry about background noises, any pets or kids or any noises in the background that might distract you from from hearing or anything like that. But you can enlarge your presentation by dragging the window up to enlarge it, or swiping right or left on the app if you're joining us from your phone. So go ahead and try and enlarge the presentation. We're going to show you a couple of things that we want to make sure that you can see fairly well. At the end, we will be taking questions, so make sure that you have your questions ready to go. Feel free to type in questions at any time using the webinar feature. You can see that down here underneath the questions tab. Go ahead and click on that, type in a question if you have something that pops up, and we'll address that at the end. If you raise your hand, you see that little raise hand button right there. That's kind of like a virtual hand raise, right? You can go ahead and do that. We'll call on you and mute your mic when we start taking questions at the end. Or if I give you a verbal cue to go ahead and do that, sometimes I'll be asking a couple of questions here and there during the presentation. In the handout section, you can download this presentation as well as your spotter certificate, so you can go ahead and check that out. And if you miss anything, or if you get distracted, don't worry, we will record this and post it on YouTube by today or tomorrow, so that way you can review any information if you missed anything, or if you just want to review or touch base with a couple of different aspects of becoming a SKYWARN spotter. You can go ahead and check that stuff again. You can always review it. We're not testing you guys or scoring you guys or any of this stuff, so feel free to review any of this information as much as possible. To communicate with me, again, just want to reiterate, you can have the chat box. You have the chat option down here. Type that question in there. Feel free to do that at any point in time. We'll just take care of all that stuff at the end. If you don't see the question box, you can click on the little red arrow at the top right of your screen, and that should open it up so that way you can see the whole entire panel. At any point in time, if you want to raise your hand to ask me any questions at the end, feel free to do so as well. But otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation. So we've got a decent group of folks around here, so that's fantastic. This is our 4th year of online classes, so SKYWARN Online. We've been doing this since 2017 at this point. That's actually before I got to this office. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now with everything with online classes. Everyone's doing that, but we actually have been doing this quite often. We want to make sure we reach as many people as possible. And our hope is that you're going to learn a bit more about who we are as the National Weather Service, and learn a little bit more about severe weather and what to report to us when the time comes. So you will now be added to our spotter database since you sign up for this class, and you'll receive your certificate as well at the end. This course will be about 50 minutes long. The final 10 minutes will be questions from you for a total of around 1 hour. I just want to take a quick little poll right now to see if, let's see, is this your first SKYWARN class, or have you guys taken this class before? So you should be able to see a poll popping up. This is your first class, or have you taken the SKYWARN classes before? A lot of folks will pop in, and this is the first class. They've never done a SKYWARN class before, but they have interest in the weather. We welcome those folks, but we also have a couple of folks that just come back for a refresher. Sometimes we introduce some new information, so we want to update people on that. Or sometimes they just, it's been a while. It's been about 5-10 years since I've been a SKYWARN spotter. We welcome those folks back as well, and we're excited to have you all here with us. So we'll go ahead and close that poll. Boy, we have a pretty decent spread here. If you want to, let's see if I can share that information with you all. About almost 50-50. So half the class is first-time attendees, and half the class is returning attendees. So that's great. That's an awesome number. We welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. So really quickly, just a little bit about me. My name is Mike. Again, I'm a meteorologist here at the Weather Service. I've been here for about 2 years or so within the public sector. I did work at the private sector beforehand for about 4 years. That's a total of now getting close to over 6 years of being a meteorologist. So with all the years are starting to creep up on me a little bit there. Have gone quote unquote storm chasing in the Great Plains. I've popped out there with a couple of classmates of mine when I was in college. We went ahead and forecasted, got some real world experience forecasting severe weather and then seeing what happens in real time. I've also been through Hurricane Sandy, Dorian, and Isaias. Of course, folks around East North Carolina, you guys are not, unfamiliar with hurricanes. I'm sure most of you have more experience with hurricanes than actually I do. But just a couple pictures that I wanted to share with you all from my time out in the Great Plains in Nebraska, as well as New Mexico. My first and only tornado I found was actually in the tiny town called Tucumcari, New Mexico, back in 2014. So that was fun. But we'll get right back to the presentation. Actually, really quickly, if you want to go ahead and test out the question section, go ahead and type in where you're from. Folks that, if you're from around Newport, if you're from around Greenville, I love seeing who's coming from around this area here. So feel free to type that right in the questions section, and I'll be glad to see where everyone's from. So today's topics, we're going to go over a quick review of the National Weather Service, go over some SKYWARN facts, as well as how thunderstorms develop, how they behave, and what kind of threats are associated with those thunderstorms, what things we have to look out for as a SKYWARN spotter, and in general, for safety of your family and friends as well. We'll talk about supercell tornadoes, supercell thunderstorms and tornadoes, as well as squall lines, bow echoes, flash flooding, a whole slew of different things in this presentation. We'll keep you informed with severe weather and review some spot procedures, and we'll try and have a good time, right? So looks like we've got some a nice variety of folks. We have some people from OBX and Hampstead, North Carolina. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Ahoskie, North Carolina, I think. You can correct me later. Feel free to correct me again at the very end when we go through the questions and answering section. But really nice spread of folks around here. I love seeing people join us from around Eastern North Carolina. And on occasion, we get some folks around the US as well. So that's always incredibly exciting. Just a few things to keep in mind. I am going to throw a lot of information at you, and it will be presented here. Don't feel pressure to be able to absorb everything all at once. Again, we have our classes available on YouTube. You can download this presentation to review at home if you want to. In addition, we welcome you to join us again for if you want to review a basic SKYWARN, or if you want to learn a bit more and join us for advanced SKYWARN in a couple of weeks. Feel free to do that as well. But don't feel pressured to just absorb everything and remember everything all at once. We don't expect that. And if you do, that's fantastic as well. But we want to give you just a bit of science so that way you understand why storms occur. But our main goal is that you report to us when severe weather happens and what you're seeing. So enjoy the class, but pay special attention to what to report, how to report it, and when. And most importantly, always, always, always ask those questions. So right now, I just want to make sure that my audio levels are good. If you can go ahead and test out your raise hand function. So if you can hear me, just go ahead and raise your hand, click on that raise hand button. All right, Mr. Briggs, Mr. Jones, Robin, John, awesome, fantastic. So it looks like most people can hear me. And if you can't hear me, feel free to send something in the questions section saying, hey, Mike, I can't hear you. Come on, speak up, buddy, or fix something. So glad to see at least most people can hear me. So we'll go ahead and move along from with the presentation. So when the weather turns severe, that's our job. That's where we come into play. When I say we, I mean the Weather Service, as well as the SKYWARN spotters. Our mission together is to protect life and property. Issue warnings to alert the public of severe weather, floods, blizzards, ice storms, high winds, hurricanes, and coastal storms. Here in Eastern North Carolina, we're not unfamiliar to hurricanes, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, big nor'easters, coastal storms, rip currents, high winds, I mean, we're not even unfamiliar with winter storms, right? Once in a while we'll get a nice winter storm, some ice storms, and maybe even some blizzards. So certainly we have a nice variety of weather here in Eastern North Carolina. And again, the National Weather Service, we are nationwide. We are a federal agency. We have over 90 some offices around the country. You can see this, every single color on the map is a different office. We call our little area of homes right here in Eastern North Carolina. We call that place our home, and we are surrounded by our friends at Wilmington, Raleigh, and Wakefield up in Virginia. So note, if you are not from Eastern North Carolina, go ahead and follow up with your local office at this training, get their contact information. I do have specific contact info for our office I will share with you in this presentation, but all the information here is still standard, is still good to use no matter where you are. So here's our local office. This is where we forecast this portion of East North Carolina. This includes the Outer Banks and the Crystal Coast, as well as big cities like Greenville, military bases, Cherry Point, as well as Kent Lejeune and New River. We also cover the coastal areas. So just off the coast of the Outer Banks and the Crystal Coast, so Cape Hatteras, those marine zones as well. We cover those areas. We warn and we forecast for those regions. So if you're a mariner, or if you like going out on boats, or you conduct business or anything, or for recreation, we got your back. We got your forecast for you. We are open 24/7, 365. We stay here. When the weather gets bad, this is where we're stationed. This is where we're hunkered down. These are a couple of photos from Hurricane Florence. Our staff, again, we all stayed here back in 2018. We even slept here, we ate food here, we had stocked up on water. The reason why is that our building is designed to withstand hurricanes and when the weather gets bad. So we are safe here in our shelter here in Eastern North Carolina in our office. SKYWARN, the program itself, is a national volunteer program run by the National Weather Service. And your goal is to provide the Weather Service with ground truth reports of significant weather. I really want to emphasize ground truth reports. We can see things on radar. We can see things on satellite. We have great technology that analyzes the storms. What we don't have is eyes on the ground. We don't know what's happening on the ground. These storms may look vicious on radar, but we need to know if it's actually impacting, what kind of impacts we have on the ground. And that's where our SKYWARN spotters come into play. You provide real-time reports to assist the Weather Service in our warning decisions and help us gauge how severe a storm is. Again, the instruments we have are fantastic. They've been better than ever, and we've been constantly innovating, but there's still nothing like a nice report from a neighbor or a member of the community that I can trust, and it's a human voice and I can hear saying, hey, there is some really big pieces of hail falling down on our porch right now and on our yard. There's the size of softballs or baseballs. That means a lot to us. That means more to us than a radar image, and that means more to us than a satellite image. So the folks on the ground, you folks on the ground, mean more to us than the instruments that we've got in our office. So your information may be used as the reason to issue a warning or add credibility to a warning. So again, a lot of our warnings are radar estimates. They are forecasts. But if we say, hey, Mr. Mike over here in Newport saw a tornado on the ground, that confirms it. And if someone in your community says, hey, there's a tornado on the ground, seek shelter now, that carries more weight than any warning that we could potentially send out. So your reports provide potentially life-saving information to us as well as the rest of the community. The SKYWARN provides a backbone of emergency communications. Again, the trained eye, the storm spotter, is our greatest asset, no matter what technology we decide to create or what we have right now or in the future. We'll go over a couple of fundamental things. Again, we're going to give you a little bit of weather background, a little bit of weather knowledge, so that way you can apply it to your SKYWARN spotter certification. Some fundamental definitions. I'm throwing all these things at you, but just hang in there. You're not expected to remember every single fact and factoid of these things, but I'm just going to help provide some insight to these things. First and foremost, a severe thunderstorm is a thunderstorm which produces hail at 1 inch diameter or larger, or wind gusts 58 miles an hour or stronger. So those are very specific criteria. Again, hail 1 inch diameter or larger, and wind gusts 58 miles an hour or stronger. Again, we're not expecting you to know exactly what 58 miles an hour is, but we'll get to that in a moment. There's other ways of helping us report when a thunderstorm is severe. The next thing is a tornado. I think everyone is familiar with what a tornado is, right? It's these scary, violent, rotating columns of air. We've seen it on the weather, on weather television. We see it on local television as well. We see it online everywhere. Those are rotating columns of air from a thunderstorm, and is in contact with the ground and causing damage. Those are the blockbuster things to always look out for. And that's what scares a lot of folks. That's always what scares people to take shelter. And then the last thing I want to talk about is funnel clouds. Funnel clouds are rotating funnel-shaped clouds extending from a thunderstorm base. They're, they look like thunderstorms, like almost, they look like almost tornadoes, and that's essentially what they are. A funnel cloud is attached to the cloud base, but doesn't reach the ground. It's a tornado that doesn't reach the ground. It's rotating. It's, it looks like it's smooth and looks like it's hanging down, but there's nothing on the ground yet. It can't quite get its act together, and it's not causing damage, but it might, right? And that's what we're looking for. A funnel cloud's a nice thing to report, because if you see something that's rotating, that's trying to make its way to the ground, we can add a little bit of credibility to our warnings, and we can let people know, hey, not only do we think there's might be a tornado on the ground soon, but it looks like we're seeing something trying to drop down physically. Another set of fundamental definitions I want to throw at you, the watches and warnings. A severe watch, so a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch, that means conditions are favorable for the weather event in and near the watch area or wherever we issue it. And that's issued by the National Weather Service's Storm Prediction Center out in Norman, Oklahoma. Again, those are fairly large areas, and that's just saying, hey, conditions are favorable. Things are starting to kind of line up a bit. All the ingredients for severe weather is there. It's just not happening yet, but we think it's going to happen within the next couple hours. A warning is when a weather event, tornado, thunderstorm, whatever it may be, is imminent or occurring in the warned area. So if you see a warning, if you receive a warning from us, and that's issued by the Weather Service office in Newport, if you see or receive a warning from us, that means that something is coming right now, or it's already on the ground. We really want to hammer this point home, because the watch and the warning, differentiations between the two of them always seems to be a little bit, confusing for some folks. People that have done SKYWARN before, or who are weather enthusiasts, you're probably saying, hey, Mike, come on, like this is basics, this is first grade here. Well, first grade or not, this is incredibly important information. So we want to make sure that you know the difference between a watch and a warning, and that folks at home know the difference between a watch and a warning, that you can tell maybe your friends or your family, help explain to them as well. I'll go ahead and give you a nice little analogy for the difference between a watch and a warning. It's cupcake fundamentals, right? So again, a watch is when conditions are favorable for something occurring. All the ingredients are there, so it's like a cupcake watch. Conditions are favorable for cupcakes. I've got the flour out, I've got the butter, I've got the sugar out, I've got chocolate chips, I've got the pan. I'm displaying it all on the table. All the ingredients are there. So you're saying, oh, Mike's about to make some cupcakes here. He might burn them, but there's some cupcakes potentially coming. That's a cupcake watch. A cupcake warning means that cupcakes are imminent or occurring. That means they're in the oven. I've mixed up all the ingredients. I put them in the oven, I set the timer, and they'll be done in about 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. Or maybe they're already done. They're out of the oven, they're cooling on the counter, and I already put the icing on them and everything. So again, a cupcake watch means conditions are favorable for cupcakes. A cupcake warning means that cupcakes are there, they're available, they're ready to go, they're ready to eat. And that's a difference. Again, some folks might laugh and say, oh, come on, Mike, this is this is a little bit foolish. But you know what? Take that example, teach it to your kids, teach it to your friends, teach it to your neighbors. Take home those cupcake fundamentals, and maybe have some dessert tonight after dinner, right? Next thing I want to talk about is our website. So I want to briefly talk about this because there's a lot of good information available on our website. You can share it with your family, you can share it with your friends, you can look at it every day. We've got information from climate information, past weather, current weather forecasts. Explore the website. You can go in depth as much as you want to. We have 7-day forecasts available, so that means, is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold, wet, dry, sunny, or cloudy? Is it going to be windy? When it rains, is it going to turn into snow later, or is it going to be thunderstorms? We have all of that information for you in your typical 7-day forecast that you're probably used to seeing from folks on television. We also have hourly forecasts available to you. So this nice hourly weather graph will allow you to go through hour by hour to see what the conditions are going to be during that time. So let's say you have a barbecue at 6 p.m. On a Saturday. You can go ahead and use the hour by hour forecast. Look at the temperature, look at the winds, and you can see the percent chance of rain as well. Now, when the weather gets really bad, we also have weather briefings available on our website. So you just go to our homepage, again, weather.gov/Newport or weather.gov/Morehead City, scroll down and click on the weather hazards briefing page. Now, this isn't always available, but again, it's available when there's severe weather. It's available when there is a hurricane imminent. So we will always keep that, have something there in the event of significant weather. And these weather briefings are a little bit more in depth than your 7-day forecast. They go into, a summary of impacts. How bad is it going to be? So this is a slide from our briefing during Hurricane Florence. You can see we, said, hey, wind, surge, rainfall, all on the very extreme end of the spectrum. We have to be, very concerned about all of these things. And for anything, even for like a winter storm, we'll have snowfall totals. We'll tell you how confident we are in the forecast, what kind of obstacles we may be running into, and then also potentially when the greatest impacts might be. So again, we break it down for you a little bit more in depth with these weather briefings. I highly recommend checking those out anytime we have severe weather or any type of significant weather. On top of that, we also have social media channels. So most of you probably saw on social media that we're having the classes and signed up. That's awesome. But if you haven't done that yet, please, please, please follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and now we are also experimenting with Instagram. So go ahead and follow us on that as well. This is a example from April 2020 of last year during severe weather event. We were doing a Facebook Live. We did a full-on Facebook Live with folks around the office and from our houses as well. And we were just doing about 10 minutes or so. We were just briefing you on what to expect, why it's occurring, and what's the timetable of everything occurring and happening. So again, we break it down for you guys. We try to help you guys as much as possible when you all prepare at home. On top of that, we also have mobile forecasts. So mobile.weather.gov is a mobile-friendly version of our website. Very quick access to our 7-day forecast. You can access that from anywhere in the country, and it can act as an app. We don't have an official weather service app, but we have mobile.weather.gov, and that will allow you to look at the information from your phone a little bit more easily than the typical weather.gov. So go ahead, save that, bookmark it if you can, so that way you have that information at your fingertips. So back into some severe weather stuff. I want to quickly talk about severe weather risk categories. This is one of the earliest warning signs that we can that our weather service provides to people whenever there is potential for some severe weather. They issue these severe weather outlooks, and they can be planned anywhere from 1 to 3 days or even 1 to 8 days. And just to really quickly go over the different categories, we'll start with the lowest ones. The light green color is a general thunderstorms. That means we think there's going to be thunderstorms here, but we don't think they're going to be very severe. We don't have that many ingredients on the table to make a severe thunderstorm, but we think there might be a couple of showers of thunderstorms in the area. And then the next one, the darker green color, is a marginal risk, which might mean there might be some isolated severe weather possible. Then we move up on the scale to a slight or an enhanced risk. Those are the yellow and orange colors. That means there's going to be some severe weather expected today. Severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch is going to be possible or even likely in those situations. A slight risk and enhanced risk is fairly common in our area. When we get up to a moderate risk, that's when things start getting a little bit more serious. A severe weather, that means severe weather is likely. We will more than likely, almost definitely have a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch. And that means that a fairly decently sized severe weather outbreak is possible. When I say outbreak, I mean there's going to be multiple reports of severe weather. There's going to be multiple reports of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes potentially impacting the area. So that's something we have to worry about. And then there's the blockbuster one, the most intense one, high risk. We never want to be in a high risk, right? That's not good. That means a major outbreak is likely. I haven't seen a high risk in this area yet. I've only been here for about almost 2.5 years now. So although I think we've had some high risks in the past year, those are very, very, very rare events. If it's a high risk day, you can bet that you'll be hearing from us to make sure that you're ready to, with your own household, but also you're ready to help us report and send in those storm reports for us, so that way we can provide some really good warnings to folks within our communities. So what causes a thunderstorm? Again, we're going to go over a couple of small little science tidbits. I'm going to throw them at you, but just to give you a little bit of a background of a thunderstorm. It requires 3 ingredients: moisture, instability, and lift. And again, think of it as a recipe. I love food. I love cooking. So you're going to hear a lot of food and cooking analogies here tonight, all right? So think of it as a recipe. You need all 3 in order to make sure that you've got a good thunderstorm brewing, right? So let's talk about the first ingredient, moisture. Here in Eastern North Carolina, we typically have a pretty abundant amount of moisture. Our sources can include the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. These locations, there's plenty of moisture available here in Eastern North Carolina, especially for folks nearby the ocean. So we're certainly in abundance of moisture around here. The next thing we have to worry about is instability. That's the next ingredient. And instability really is essentially just cold air versus warm air. And that's all you really need to take away from this. Warm air is going to be lighter than cold air. So think of as a pocket of warm air, like a balloon, and cold air is the air around surrounding it. That balloon is going to be a little bit lighter than the air surrounding it, and it's going to start lifting. It will rise. So warm air is going to be lighter, and it will rise, if it's put into an area of cold air. And the greater difference between the surface temperature, which is going to be very warm, or the temperature aloft, or many thousands of feet overhead, the greater the instability. So we have warm air at the ground, we have a hot summer day, but if we have very cold air above us, that means we have a decent amount of instability. Now, if everything above us is going to be just as warm as the surface, we really don't have that much instability. We really don't have to worry about that so much. But the way it works is that when the sun hits the ground warms up. And if that warms up enough to make it seem like the air on top is a little bit cooler, well, guess what? We'll start seeing pockets of warm air starting to lift. And that's when we have that instability. That's when we have all that energy stored into there. So a little bit more simply speaking, instability, think of it as like shaking up a soda bottle. So you got a soda bottle, that's the moisture, and you start shaking it. Well, then it starts creating instability within the bottle. All these little bubbles start forming. There's a lot of pressure inside the bottle. All the air is trying to escape and move up in the bottle, right? But nothing's going to happen at this point because we're still missing one last ingredient. And if you remember that ingredient, it's going to be lift. So we need to lift that cap off and watch the bubbles go shooting upwards. And that's what lift is. Different in the atmosphere, it's a little bit different than just a bottle cap, but essentially those lifting mechanisms are fronts. That's why the meteorologists on TV keep on always talking about fronts, cold fronts, warm fronts. All those different types of fronts are very key because they allow us to have and to use that lift, to use all that instability to make all these thunderstorms. Again, cold air is denser than warm air, so this is a cold front. And when cold air decides to rush into warm air, well, it's just going to lift the warm air right over its head. It's usually very strong. Cold fronts are typically a little bit stronger than warm fronts, and the warm is forced to rise up. And if the air is unstable enough, it'll keep rising and rising and start forming a cloud. And that's how we get those really big and tall thunderstorm clouds. That's how we get precipitation. and that's how we start getting severe weather. And the other type of front, the other type of lifting mechanism is a warm front. The warm front is a little bit more subdued than the cold front. Because the cold air is denser than a warm front, the warm front, when it hits the cold air, is actually going to rise over the cold air. And with that said, you know, it takes a little bit more for the warm front to push the cold air out of the way, but it still can do it. The clouds won't be as tall, the storms won't be as, you know, typically as strong, but you can still get severe weather, you can still get tornadoes, you can still get rain. It's just not going to be, you know, the typical way we get it. But it certainly is still possible to get some nice thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms from a warm front. And really quickly before I go on that, I just want to hit upon another front. I didn't make a slide for this one, but here in Eastern North Carolina, the next front that we're always worried about is sea breezes, right? So in the summertime, we're sitting on the beach, it's nice, all of a sudden we get a nice sea breeze coming in through. That's another type of front, right? That's colder air hitting into warmer air and lifting all that instability and using all that moisture here in the summertime to create thunderstorms. And that's why we get sometimes those afternoon thunderstorms a little bit further inland when the sea breeze starts going on. So a quick note on that for a local area. Really quickly, this is a very important slide here, so I want to make sure we spend some time on it. How do you make your report when you see severe weather? And this spotter hotline is specifically for Eastern North Carolina. This is the number you call if you see severe weather, if you want to report severe weather. So go ahead and take a moment right now, take out your phones, write this number down. If you're on your phone, on the app for GoToWebinar, go ahead and grab a piece of paper, write this number down, 1-800-889-6889. That number is specific for Eastern North Carolina. It goes directly to our office. It rings, you don't have to have there's no robots, there's no buttons to push. It rings directly to us. That is our hotline. You call us, we will answer. Don't call us right now. Again, this is for reports only. If there is a severe weather, if you see severe weather happening, if you want to report something, this is where you report it. And how you report it is 4 easy steps. Tell us who you are. You say, hey, I'm a trained spotter, trained SKYWARN spotter located in, you know, Outer Banks, Kinston, Greenville, wherever you're located. Tell us what you saw, whether it be a funnel cloud or a hailstone coming down from the sky. Tell us where you saw it and also when you saw it. So about, you know, 6:45 p.m., 5, 10, 15 minutes ago. Be very specific with that information because all that information is incredibly important to us. Again, who you are, what you saw, where you saw it, and when you saw it. Call that number. That's the best way to reach us, 100%. Now, there's, of course, more ways to reach us just in case things always go down. You can also email us at wxobs.mhx@noaa.gov. Feel free to write this down again. And remember, the spotters sending us reports can help save lives potentially. Because again, we see things on radar. It might look severe, but we're not entirely sure what's happening on the ground. This is where our SKYWARN spotters come into play. So again, who you are, what you saw, where you saw it, and when you saw it. I'm going to hammer that in. Hopefully you guys will be dreaming about that tonight. Just me saying those 4 different steps. Who you are, what you saw, where you saw it, when you saw it, right? So if possible, give us a call first. Say, hey, this is what I saw. Take pictures if you are safe, if there's hail damage, if there's roof damage, whatever it may be, and then send us pictures via email over there at wxobs.mhx@noaa.gov. All right? So back into a little bit more of science, there are different types of thunderstorms. So now that we learned a little bit more of how thunderstorms form, now we're going to go talk about the different types of thunderstorms that can form. And this is a bit of a what I call intensity scale. So on the left side here is the least intense storm, and the right side is the most severe one. Not saying that the ones on the left, a single cell thunderstorm, is, you know, no threat at all, but it is going to be the weaker out of the bunch. Again, the single cell thunderstorm means that there's weak updraft, not much severe, or maybe a little bit severe. There is a slight threat to severe weather from those single cell thunderstorms. And when we move over to multi-cell cluster thunderstorms, that means there's more than one of those thunderstorms. The way that acts is that it's going to create a moderate threat. So it's going to be a little bit more of a threat, there's a decent amount of updraft, there's a decent amount of instability, there's a little bit more to work with. And then we talk about multi-lines thunderstorms, which is also called a squall line, or even what they call a QLCS, or I won't go into too much into that, but sometimes people call that a squall line or QLCS thunderstorm. But it's a line of thunderstorms. It can provide some really good amounts of updraft, really good amounts of wind damage potentially with that line, because right now you're pretty much talking about north to south line or east to west, a whole line, a whole swath of just thunderstorms pushing through the area. And so that one's a little bit more threatening because it covers a lot more real estate there. And the last one, and this is going to be our the top tier one, is what we call a supercell. These things are a very high threat. There's a very intense updraft. These things tend to rotate themselves as the wind is going up because it's so violent. And these are our blockbuster tornado producing thunderstorms. This is a supercell thunderstorm. So we'll go a little bit more into the single cell thunderstorm. Again, it's going to be one of those summertime thunderstorms that pops up, you get some lightning, get some heavy downpours, and then goes away. That's what we call a single cell thunderstorm or a pulse thunderstorm. The cloud is towering. You can see that on the picture here. Shows some bubbly nature, looks like cauliflower or cotton candy up top here. That means we have some instability. That means it's growing. And notice the cloud is just vertical, straight up and down. There's no spreading out. And that means that it doesn't tilt. So that means it's just growing up and it's going to drop whatever comes down. So whatever goes up comes back down. And that's a single cell thunderstorm there. Again, and the normal thing here is some weak downbursts, some a little bit of gusty winds, some small hail and heavy rain with this. Again, it goes up and down, maybe about 20, 30, 45 minutes or so. It'll be in and out, gone. It's pretty disorganized in nature. Again, low degree of severe events. We might get some small hail if there's enough of an updraft, enough instability, but the tornado potential is going to be low. It's not going to have enough time to get act together to really become a severe storm. But it's possible at any time. This is going to occur in the summertime when you get your typical garden variety summertime thunderstorms. Just a quick note though, even though I say severe hail or not severe hail, small hail, large hail, doesn't matter. Anytime you see hail, please report it to us. Actual size of the hail is always recommended. If you see hail, that means we need to pay attention to a storm. That means it's pretty strong. Some of these hailstones can get fairly large. Storm spotters, they typically use a ruler. So they will take the biggest hailstone they find, bring up a ruler and measure it. And the one in the bottom left-hand corner shows that that's just over 2 inches in diameter for a hailstone. That's perfect. So that's approximately the size of an egg. If you don't have a ruler on you, that's fine. Give us one of these common terminologies. Maybe it's a quarter, maybe it's the size of quarters, or a golf ball or a baseball. If it starts getting really big and starts looking like a grapefruit or softball, number one, please make sure you're safe inside and not actually outside while it's actively, dropping hailstones on your head. And number two, certainly measure it and give us a call. Definitely give us a call. But again, anytime there's hail, if you see hail, pieces of ice falling from the sky, please give us a call. We want to know about it. The one thing you don't want to do is refer to hail sizes as marbles, because every marble is a little bit different. You have big marbles, small marbles. I don't know which marble you're talking about. It's better to use some loose change, quarter, nickel, penny, dime. It's a little, unfortunately, it's a little bit less common now because folks, we have apps and credit cards and other ways to go about paying. But if you got some loose change in your pocket, you take it out and kind of refer to that size. That's perfect. That'll work just as good as a ruler. If you got a ruler, again, best case scenario, take out a ruler, measure it, get a nice measurement in there, and snap a picture. Again, once it's safe, once it stops, hailing and falling from the sky, give us a picture and send us that report. And again, want to reiterate, report any hail size, get a picture and measure the largest hailstone that you can find. A good example would be saying, hey, we're getting nickel-sized hail, but there's a few that are a little bit bigger, maybe about a size of a quarter. Again, don't use marbles to report hail. Let's skip one here. There we go. The next one I want to talk about is multi-cell storms, clusters, and lines. And so what goes on here is as these thunderstorms start forming, they have something called wind shear. So as these thunderstorms start forming, there's a little bit of the wind aloft can start pushing the clouds and tilting the thunderstorm a bit. Well, that just gives it a little bit more room to grow, right? Because before we had single cell thunderstorms, grows up, can't really grow out that much, and then just falls back down. When there's a little bit of shear, when there's a little bit of wind shear going on here, and the thunderstorm clouds are a little bit more tilted, as you can see here, that means it has a little bit more room to grow, right? It can grow a little bit more horizontally. It can more than one thunderstorm can start forming, and that means we're going to get a decent amount of a decent potential for some severe thunderstorms forming. Multi-cell thunderstorms can do something called training. So that sounds like exactly what it is. It just one cell not to the other, just follows the cell before it, like it's on, like follow the leader. It's going to keep training right over the same exact area, and that causes a big problem. That's flash flooding, right? And of course, whenever we encounter a roadway, anytime a roadway is flooded, we turn around and don't drown. Please, please, please make sure you never drive through a roadway that is flooded, because you just don't know what's underneath. You also might get swept away. You don't know how fast the water's going. You don't know how deep it is. It's very hard to tell how deep some of these flooded roadways are. And again, the roadway could be washed out or could have buckled or crumbled underneath the flood waters, and you have no way of knowing. Please, please make sure you never drive through flooded roadways. So what to report when you see a flash flooding? Anything that's significant, something you've never seen before or rarely ever seen. Or if it starts closing down roadways, starts impacting everyday life. So ideally, we want to know before it gets really bad, but saying, give us a call saying, hey, Mike, roads are becoming a little bit covered with water. The stream behind your backyard is rising quickly and approaching the bank full. Or, say, hey, the first responders, the police have closed this roadway because it's completely flooded out. We see a flooded car. Again, give us a call. If it's something you don't see every day and you see some really good amount of flooding, please, please, please give us a call. We want to know, if we can get information on how deep the water is compared to if there's any cars submerged on there, if there's up to the tires, up to the doorways, or if it's really bad, tell us, hey, this water's up to the roof. It's really, really bad. And of course, if roads are washed out or impassable, give us a call as well. If you have a rain gauge, that's awesome. Rainfall reports are also extremely useful. So that means rainfall amounts, if you get more than 2 inches within a day, give us a call. If you know how much rain has fallen, that gives us a good idea for potential flooding in certain areas. Again, we have radar to estimate these things, but the ground truth is the ground truth, and we want to hear from you. If you're interested in reporting rainfall reports, these things come to a big play during hurricane season. Anytime we get a hurricane, getting these rainfall reports of 2 inches, 4, 5, 6, even sometimes over a foot of rainfall over a long period of time is incredibly helpful to us. If you're interested in getting a rain gauge, or if you're thinking of joining a nice network, think about CocoRoss. And now CocoRoss is a community collaborative rain, hail, and snow network. That's actually what CocoRoss stands for. This is essentially a citizen scientist community. A bunch of people around North Carolina, around the United States, in fact, all join together, measure rainfall around the country, and upload all that information to the website or through the app. And that rainfall data is incredibly important to us because we have a good amount of stations, but not enough to actually cover everything. So if you want to join CocoRoss, and this is just a very quick plug, go to cocoRoss.org, go ahead and purchase a low-cost plastic rain gauge. Again, I think these things are about $20, $30, $40 maybe, and then view the online training show or attend the training session. Set your gauge out in your yard and start observing precip on a daily basis. The next set of thunderstorms is called Squall Lines or multi-cell thunderstorms, and they typically turn into what is called a nice bow. And we call it a bow echo because actually when the winds get really strong and the storm gets really organized, it starts, causing really strong winds and actually will turn the entire storm and start bending the whole thing and making it bow out. So if you like looking at radar, you'll notice this nice little bow structure here. That is a squall line or multi-cell thunderstorm, and that's a bow echo, as we call it. That's an area with the strongest winds, where it's the most amount of damage that we potentially can see. And then on top of that, if you're lucky, you might be able to see what we call a shelf cloud. So that's a leading edge of that bow echo or that gust front coming through. So this was a picture taken in Harker's Island back in 2017. This storm at Fort Macon produced 82 miles an hour when it passed over. So you can see, if you see some really interesting structures out there, while you're reporting, oh boy, that's a shelf cloud. That typically means, hey, we're going to see some really strong winds. This is called a microburst. You can see, again, when I say that thunderstorms can produce as much damage and as much wind as a tornado, yeah, I'm very serious about it. I'm not kidding around. So this was in Canada. This is what we call microburst, and that's essentially when thunderstorms, we have all this air going up into it, and it's sucking up all this, these updrafts and all this moisture. This is when it just decides to just drop it all at once. All right. So again, wind damage can provide just as much damage as tornadoes. Again, we don't expect you to know, remember off the top of your head, 58 miles an hour is a severe thunderstorm warning. No, what we're looking for is wind damage. Are there trees down? Are there power lines down? How many trees down? Are there big branches down? How big are those branches that are down? What type of tree was it? Was it in good shape? Was it in bad shape? Was it an oak or a pine? If you really, are familiar with different types of trees, yeah, that's a fantastic thing to let us know if it's an oak, pine, or softwood or hardwood tree. It was a very strong wind, so to do any damage to buildings, when the windows blown out, with the roof shingles blown off, was some siding or maybe some damage to the porch or even a trailer knocked over. If you can estimate the wind speed, I know a lot of folks at home have their own personal weather stations. Great, that's awesome. Look up how strong those winds are. Let us know. That helps us. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes after the storm or 5 hours or even 3 days after the storm. Doesn't matter. Let us know, saying, hey, by the way, the storm came through a couple days ago. I was on vacation, but my weather station registered 60 miles an hour. Awesome. We want to know that information. So I gave you some different ways to report the storm reports. Here's another way. You can find us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com, NWS Morehead City. Share your picture or video with us that you took. Maybe you took some video with your security camera. Maybe your niece, nephew, or your kids took some nice video of storm coming through. Share it with us. We want to see it. We want to know about it. Again, I want to hammer this in: who you are, what you saw, where you saw it, and when you saw it. I want to know all that information. If you're 2 miles north of Greenville, how long the hail lasted, what time you saw it happen. And the last thunderstorm we want to talk about are these supercells. Again, this is the big one, the blockbuster thunderstorms, as I like to call it. These things are the textbook ones that create the tornadoes. These are very likely to be severe. Then they were also the most likely to create tornadoes, as well as very strong updrafts. And you can see these things look like just monsters, right? Sometimes they can look like they're motherships from another different galaxy if you're interested in space and all that stuff. Sometimes they have this really interesting looking anvil at top. So it looks like you have an anvil on top of the thunderstorm. You have a shelf cloud. You have all these different tornadoes. Really heavy rainfall is another thing you have to worry about. Hail is another thing you have to worry about. Again, this has all the different threats associated with it, and it's all the highest threats as well. This is what a supercell looks from above, as well as above on the radar. This is what we see in our office when we're looking at radar. We see this nice little hook shape here, and we actually do call this a hook echo. Why? Because, well, it looks like a fishing hook. If anyone fishes out there, go ahead and raise that virtual hand of yours. That would be awesome to see. If you're a fisherman, or if you've done fishing before, you've seen a hook. So if you see this on the radar, no, this is a supercell thunderstorm. This is the anatomy of it. There's some heavy rain out towards here, and then of course right where the hook gets nice and sharp, that's the greatest threat for a tornado. Does that mean there's a tornado on the ground? Absolutely no. but it is incredibly possible as occurring. On top of that, Eastern North Carolina, we do have to worry about a very specific threat, and that's tropical tornadoes. So if you remember Hurricane Dorian, Hurricane Isaias even, all those different hurricanes can potentially provide and drop tornadoes out and about. So on top of all the heavy rainfall, all the heavy wind, you'll see tornadoes spinning up. I think Hurricane Florence spun up anywhere from 20 to 30 of them that we were even able to confirm. It potentially was even more than that. I think we issued way more tornado warnings, but with all the damage around, it was hard to tell what was what. The landfalling or remnant systems, even from tropical tornadoes, doesn't even have to be hurricane. It can be a tropical storm. It can be a tropical depression. There's just so much spinning and so much disruption in the atmosphere. We'll get a little tornado pop up. Typically, they're EF0 or EF1. We had one during Dorian that was an EF2 at Emerald Isle, if you remember that. Often associated with those outer bands that come ashore with those tropical storms as well as hurricanes. These lead to increased fatalities and damage and can occur at day and night. And again, those nighttime tornadoes, they're the worst because you can't see them because it's pitch black outside and you can't see it physically with your eyes when it's coming, and that's when we really rely on the radar. And it's often a short lead time, so really not a great thing to have to watch out for. But that's where we live. This is East North Carolina, and tropical hurricane season is just right around the corner. We also get water spouts around here. Most common on summer mornings. Sometimes we'll just get a nice thunderstorm and it'll just suck up a water spout. Those are essentially just tornadoes that form over the water. They can form from a developing thunderstorm. It doesn't need to be that supercell thunderstorm. It could just be a nice thunderstorm. And if you think about it, it makes sense because over the water, it's just open country. There's no trees, no mountains or hills to block the wind to do whatever it wants. So it can do whatever it wants. Those winds can reach up to 100 miles an hour. It is difficult to detect on radar as well. Here is a video of a water spout in Emerald Isle back last year in July 2020. Actually, you can see watch it come on shore. This was actually a little bit dangerous. You'll see a little bit closer up here. This gentleman was probably a little bit too close to this water spout, but you'll see some damage, some chairs, some umbrellas being flung up in this thing as it moves offshore. Again, are these, winds can reach 100 miles an hour with these things. You have to be very careful about them. You don't need a supercell thunderstorm in order to create them. You can see around here, watch, you see a couple of pieces of chairs, and there goes the launcher right there, boom, with some sand, and some dunes are getting lifted up with it as well. So take these things seriously. They can cause damage. They can still hurt you. They can fling a table at you, and that's not a fun day either. You're not going to have a good day at the beach. Of course, the last thing I want to talk about is tornadoes and funnel clouds. This is going to be, this is pretty much what a lot of folks came here for. Tornadoes and funnel clouds. The number one question is, do you have rotation? Does it extend to the ground? What is the damage? And make sure you be clear about whether it is happening now or if it just happened before. And this is all tips of when you report these tornadoes. I don't expect you to look outside and say, hey, I'm looking for tornadoes, I'm chasing after them. No, please don't do that. If you get a tornado warning, seek shelter. Absolutely seek shelter. If you see something, you see a funnel cloud forming, and it's not quite on the ground yet, but it's rotating again, we're looking for that rotating cloud, give us a call saying, hey, Mike, I see something here. Do you see it? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe we have a warning on it, maybe I don't. But your reports help us confirm what we're seeing at home base here in our office. So if you see a tornado, if you see a water spout, if you see a funnel cloud, give us a call. If you receive a tornado warning, you seek shelter, great. And then you hear, and once a tornado warning expires, you go outside and you see damage. Give us a call saying, hey, my neighbor's house just got a little roof damage. What's going on here? We'll investigate. Was it thunderstorms or was it tornadoes? We get enough of those reports, we'll come back out and we'll try to investigate how strong this tornado was. And again, if we see some damage, we hear damage from a tornado warning, we will start to increase and up the ante on the wording of these warnings, saying, hey, there was damage reported. Hey, someone saw a tornado come through. Your reports make a difference, absolutely. Another way to report, speaking of reports, if you have Twitter, follow us at NWS Morehead City and send us a tweet. If you got a picture, awesome. If you don't have a picture, no stress. We want to make sure you're safe first, and then let us know what the reports are. So tell us again who you are, what you saw, where you saw it, and when you saw it. All right, quiz time. I'm gonna give you send you a poll. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page here. I want to quiz you. There are two pictures here. Please tell me, are these funnel clouds? And here's a big hint. They are not rotating. So look at these pictures for a second. I'm going to bring up the question in a few seconds, and then you will answer. Again, are these funnel clouds? Are the things pictured in these photos funnel clouds? And here's a big hint. They are not rotating. So I will launch the poll question. So go ahead and vote. Is this a funnel cloud, yes or no? We'll give it a couple more seconds. So it looks like most of you have voted. So I'll give it another 5 or 10 seconds before I go ahead and close the poll. And I'll go ahead and 3, 2, 1. All right, I'll close the poll. And well, hopefully I'm doing a good job, because hopefully these polls show that I'm doing a good job here. Correct, these are not funnel clouds. They are not rotating. These things are not funnel clouds. This is what we call, in the weather community, scud clouds. These are not funnel clouds. Don't be fooled by these non-rotating, low-hanging clouds, scud clouds. Let me tell you something. Scud clouds are very, very annoying. These low-hanging clouds, again, not rotating, just hanging out about, looking kind of scary, absolutely. They're not funnel clouds as if they're not rotating. So that's a big differentiation from them. I myself find scud clouds very tricky. There's a photo I took in Colorado. This little thing right here, yeah, this was not a funnel cloud. We saw that hanging out. We pulled over at a farm, and we looked out and we started to analyze it. No, it was not rotating. It was not a funnel cloud. It was just scud. We also met a nice friendly horse as well. Very incredibly friendly horse. And let's pet it too. It was very nice. Very beautiful country out there. Really nice area for sure. All right, so that wasn't a scud cloud, but in the event that a tornado does happen, you see damage, again, give us a call, tell us where you are, what you saw, what the damage is, and then when it happened, we will come out there and start investigating what the damage is. And we'll use what we call the enhanced Fujita scale to categorize any potential tornado damage that uses the intensity of the damage to estimate how strong that tornado was. Anywhere from EF0 to an EF5, EF0 being the weakest, and EF5 being the strongest. God willing, we will never see an EF4 and EF5 here while I'm at, while I live in Eastern North Carolina. That would be absolutely devastating and terrible. But we've had EF0s, we have EF1s and EF2s, absolutely. And we actually have had an EF3 within recent history. I think about 10 years ago, we had an EF3 go fairly close to Greenville and cause a decent amount of damage. So how do we determine a tornado? What do we do on these surveys? The pattern of the damage is the big key. If there's a nice amount of convergence, you see large arcroot trees and they're kind of converging on each other, that means there's a nice twisting and turning in those tornadoes. The tornado damage tends to be chaotic. Things are uprooted. Things are just kind of out of place. Again, think of like the Tasmanian devil, right? When you're watching Looney Tunes or something. This little guy just comes through and just causes all types of havoc. There's no organization. Things just spread out everywhere. That's a difference between tornado damage and a straight line wind damage. So we determine straight line wind damage or a microburst on a survey by about the pattern of the damage. Everything is flattened out into one direction. We know it was a straight line wind. It was a very strong, winds blowing in one direction at one single time. It's a little bit more organized. Granted, again, it can still cause a lot of damage. Trees are uprooted. If they're flattened out, if there's some, shingles in the same direction, if all the debris is blown in the same direction, we know that that's going to be straight line wind. And again, those microbursts or straight line winds can be as high as 100 miles an hour. That's nothing to mess with. Absolutely not. All right, another spotter quiz. Look at this picture here. Pay attention to it. Analyze it very, very closely. Is this a tornado or a funnel cloud? And yes, this is rotating. So you see this hanging down, and you see it rotating. And you want to know, is this a tornado or a funnel cloud? So I'm going to go ahead and queue up this question. Go ahead and launch it. Is this a funnel cloud or a tornado? Go ahead and vote. Give it a little bit of time. You have to pay very close attention to it, everything. Remember what you learned here. And this is a trick question. This is a tricky question. So I'll give it a couple of more seconds. Tornado or a funnel cloud. All right. And I'll go ahead and close it. All right. And if you guessed tornado, you are correct. And I understand if you thought it was a funnel cloud. I get it. Again, it's a bit of a tricky question, but here, I'll show you what's going on here. You see that funnel cloud coming down, right? But if you trace it all the way to the ground, you see something being kicked up. Well, right there you go. That's a tornado. That means you have connection on the ground. There's damage, there's debris on the ground, something's being kicked up, and you can connect the dots there. A tornado does not always have a perfect, straight, funnel cloud. It doesn't have a perfect straight line all the time. Sometimes it is broken. It's just there's not enough debris for it to actually pick it up for you to see it, but there is still rotating wind there occurring. So again, yeah, this was a tornado. Debris at the ground indicates that the circulation is being lofted up. So yeah, again, trick question. Most of you got it right. Give yourselves a hand. The next way that you can provide some storm reports is an app called MPing. Again, the Weather Service does not have any apps available to you, but the NOAA, our parent agency itself, has something called MPing. You can report severe weather. You can report rain, hail, snow, even, and right from your mobile device. It's available on Apple and Android. Reports are sent to the Weather Service, and they are anonymous. It is very easy to use. Just go ahead and send it. Feel free to go ahead and download that if you'd like. Remember, your reports are incredibly critical to the Weather Service for us to issue our life-saving warnings. Our warning objective is to issue warnings before severe weather occurs. We don't want to issue warnings for non-severe events because we don't want to cry wolf, because if we overwarn something, people just aren't going to listen to us. So we want to make sure that our warnings are as accurate as possible, and that we not only not miss anything, but we also, don't cry wolf. More reports give us a clearer picture of what's going on the ground. Again, that ground truth is so critical for us. Real-time reports, very critical. Even if they're reports happening the next day saying, hey, I woke up the next day, I had heard a really bad thunderstorm, went back to sleep after it ended, woke up the next day, and a big tree's down in my yard. Give us a call. Let us know. We don't always, we don't always know when something happens or not. So if you see something, absolutely say something. Again, call us with your reports. And here's a myth. The Weather Service is already aware of ongoing weather, so why should I report it? Not true. Please don't assume that we know that for certain severe weather is occurring. Again, our technology is great, but they're computers. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they have limitations. Ground truth, our eyes on the ground, you folks, our best bet and our greatest tool for forecasting and creating these warnings. Please, please, please make those reports. Call us at that number. Email us if you have to. Find us on social media as well. And again, we're going to review everything we learned. So when should you contact us? If you see a tornado or a funnel cloud, and confirm that rotation. Again, no scuds. Make sure there is rotation, okay? Hail of any size, give us a call. It doesn't matter if it's pea-sized hail or nickel-sized or grapefruit-sized hail. Give us a call. If there's any wind damage, trees are down, a structural building is damaged. If there's any flooding, closed roads, streams close to bank full, let us know. Any type of amount of heavy rainfall. If you don't see the flooding, but if you have a rain gauge at home, you say, hey, I just got a lot of rain within the last 24 hours, or even within the last hour or so, give us a call. Let us know. And again, reporting procedures, the best way to call us, the best way to report is to call us. Call us on a toll-free number. And then if you have a picture, feel free to email to us, share it on Facebook or Twitter. And then of course, if you want to be involved in the a little bit more in precipitation measurements, join us on CocoRoss as well. When should you not call us? Well, anytime there's not severe. Remember, you need to have wind damage if you're reporting strong winds. Don't just say, hey, it's a little gusty today. Well, let me know if something's actually being damaged. Are there branches falling? Or was there damage to a tree? Or was there damage to a house? Let us know about damage. Anything that's not specific, saying, oh, it's really heavy raining. Well, how much did it rain? Let us know if you see, ponding on the roadways, if the roadway starts being flooded over, or if you have a rain gauge, let us know how much it has rained. Also, don't call us for lightning. Lightning is bad. You definitely should, when thunder roars, go indoors. Absolutely 100%. That's dangerous. But, lightning, gosh, we would be getting calls from people, pretty much every single day in summertime. And that's a little bit, too much of a report. And we don't categorize storm severity with lightning either. What else can we report year-round? You can report snowfall, as well as ice. If you're interested, we have more winter, more SKYWARN classes available to you in the wintertime. That's more focused on how to report snowfall as well as ice. Again, just really quickly, if you measure ice, take a ruler, stick it on the ground a couple times, get the average. Tell us if it's 7.1 inches, 2.5 inches, round to the nearest 10th of an inch, and let us know how much snow has fallen. And if you notice any ice accumulating on the branches or on sidewalks or on the cars, give us a call too. Ice is very dangerous, and any amount of ice is worth letting us know about. Again, future SKYWARN classes, if you're interested, and I didn't, scare you away too much, we do hold 4 SKYWARN classes throughout the year. Basic SKYWARN in the spring, that's the one you're taking right now, as well as basic winter. We also had flood and tropical SKYWARN. That will be the next set of SKYWARN classes that we'll start offering next month, as well as advanced SKYWARN. We do have one more advanced SKYWARN class this year that's available in about 2 weeks or so. Feel free to visit our website at weather.gov/Morehead City to sign up. We will always post the future class information on our website, and we will post this on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our goal is that you report to us year-round, whether it be snow, hail, high winds, tornadoes, or whatever it may be. Stay current. If you will need a refresher, if you need to step away for a second because the kids were a little bit rowdy or the dog needed to use the bathroom, no problem. We have all of your YouTube SKYWARN trainings available on our website, weather.gov/MHX/MHXSkywarn. You can just go through those those videos. You also have the slides available to download for you as well. For refresh your knowledge if you need to next year. Again, you can do this at the comfort of your own home and the comfort of your own schedule. At this point, I want to thank you for your interest. We'll begin the question and answer section of this SKYWARN.